Find a comfortable position to lie down or sit. Take a deep breath and then exhale slowly. Repeat several times, feeling each breath. Try to calm your mood. Forget about today's worries and stress. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself in a peaceful place and feel the beauty around you. Now, let's begin. Let this story take you into a wonderful world, accompanying you through a quiet, peaceful night. Deep in one of Thailand's mysterious forests, emerald green trees intertwine to form a natural barrier, blocking out all the hustle and bustle of the outside world. This is the kingdom of elephants, where they live and reproduce freely. In the heart of the forest is the Elephant Mound, a place considered sacred by the elephants. By it, the king of the elephants feels a sense of foreboding that his life is coming to an end, and his heart is filled with mixed emotions. As king of the elephants, he has ruled this forest for more than 20 years and has experienced countless storms. Today, he stands at the edge of the Elephant Mound, overlooking the pit, and an inexplicable pathos wells up in his heart. Bayu stood on the perilous cliff along the pit, raised his trunk, and roared in grief. The forest was dead silent. Behind Bayu there were more than 50 elephants, large and small, watching him, waiting to hold a grand funeral for him. He looked back at his herd of elephants with mixed emotions in his eyes. Latif, a young elephant, stepped forward and whispered, "Maharaja, we are all here to accompany you on your final journey." Bayu nodded and took a deep breath as if to cheer himself up. He knew in his heart that he had not aged naturally, but had been challenged by the younger males in the herd and lost his throne. However, as king of the elephants, he had to face death bravely and show his courage and dignity. To the herd he said, "I must go to the Elephant Mound. It is not only the duty of the Elephant King, but also a tradition that has been passed down from generation to generation." There was a hint of reluctance and determination in his voice. The elephants nodded silently, respect and sadness in their eyes. Bayu raised his two front legs and stepped onto the stone wall of the pit, then slowly tilted his heavy body forward, and with a loud bang, he slid to the bottom of the pit. The bottom of the pit was wet and muddy, with a pungent, musty odor. Bayu walked to the center of the pit, used his trunk to move away the remains of his ancestors, cleared an empty space, and then, with a loud thud, knelt down toward the rising sun. The herd of elephants began to perform Bayu's funeral according to an ancient ritual. They threw down a shoot of young bamboo, fruit, and tsubaki leaves, the food the elephants had left him with enough to eat for 10 days and a half months to ensure that he would not starve while he waited for his death. Bayu looked up to cast a grateful glance at his familiar herd of elephants. As it happened, the young elephant, Ruthi, was rolling a honeycomb and appeared at the edge of the pit. At first glance, Bayu's heart turned to ice. If Ruthi had not brutally taken away his throne, he would not have gotten the news of his death so early. Although he had lived for 60 springs and autumns, the Asian elephant could live up to 80 years. Bayu died of anger and pain. "Ruthi," Bayu whispered, "did you really do it for the good of the elephants, or just for your own power?" Ruthi sneered, "Bayu, this is the world of the weak and the strong. You taught us that, didn't you?" Bayu closed his eyes feebly, his heart filled with sadness. He knew that his time was over and Ruthi's new kingdom was about to begin. Only, there was no way for him to know what this kingdom would be like anymore. The sun slowly sank in the west, and peace gradually returned to the forest. Bayu waited quietly for the final moments in the Elephant Mound, the herd of elephants silently praying for him behind him. It was the end of one era and the beginning of another. Bayu glares angrily at Rithi, who doesn't care, and with a flourish of his proboscis, gloats and throws down the honeycomb. The yellow honey flowed on Bayu's face, floating up a fragrance he licked but tasted infinite bitterness. The past flashed before his eyes. Deep in the dense forests of Thailand, night was falling, and the creatures of the forest began their nocturnal activities. The stars are dotted, and the moonlight pours over the edge of the elephant mound, reflecting the light of countless tusks. By it, the king of the elephants kneels in the mound, waiting to die. Above, the elephants begin his funeral. Latif walks to the edge of the pit and looks at the former king with a complicated gaze. Behind him, the other elephants stand in silence with a hint of respect and sadness. Even though Rithi is the new elephant king, they are still in awe of Bayu's former majesty. Sawati, a young female elephant, asks softly, "Do we really have to look at Bayu Maharaja like this? He has, after all, led us through so many difficult times." Rithi looked back at her coldly. "This is the tradition of the herd. Bayu chose the elephant mound. It was his own decision." Sawati stopped talking and just sighed silently with her head bowed. She had been a loyal follower of Bayu, and now there was nothing she could do about it. The elephants began to follow the ancient ritual of throwing young bamboo, fruit, and tsubaki leaves into the pit one by one. Futai, an old elephant, came forward and whispered, "King prayeth, we will always remember your achievements. I hope this food will help you not to feel lonely and hungry as you wait for death." Bayu raised his head and gratitude showed in his gaze. He said to Ta, "Thank you, Ta. You have been my most trusted companion. I hope Rithi can lead the herd of elephants to a brighter future." Puta nodded with tears in his eyes. "Don't worry, Maharaja, we will take care of the elephant herd." At this time, the young elephant Pawat also came to the edge of the pit. He looked at Bayu. His voice was a little choked. "Maharaja, I am honored to have followed you for so many years. Although I don't agree with what Rithi is doing, this is our tradition and I will abide by it." Bayu smiled slightly. "Pavar, young elephants are always full of fighting spirit. You must remember that protecting the herd of elephants is the most important thing. No matter what happens, you must all stick together." Just then, Rithi raised her proboscis and announced, "The funeral continues as we follow the tradition of seeing the elephant king off." The elephants continued to throw food into the pit, and Bayu looked at the food and felt a twinge of comfort in his heart. He knew that the food would keep him from starving in his final days. Even though his heart was filled with anger towards Rithi, he understood that it was the law of survival for the elephant herd. The moonlight poured over the forest, making it extraordinarily peaceful. Suddenly, a low roar broke the peace. It was Bayu, and he let out the roar of an elephant king for the last time, his voice laced with resignation and determination. "Rithi," Bayu said with the last of his strength, "remember that the responsibility of an elephant king is not only to rule, but to protect the herd. I hope you understand that." Rithi looked firmly at Bayu. "I will, my lord." "You go in peace." As Bayu's final roar echoed through the forest, the herd of elephants stood in silence, their figures looking so solemn and sacred in the moonlight. It was the end of an era and the beginning of another. The elephants silently prayed for Prayeth, hoping that he would find his last peace in the elephant mound. The morning sun of the Thai forest shines through the dense canopy of trees, filling the air with a fresh earthy aroma. The elephants rest in an open space where the leaves sway gently and birds sing happily in the branches. However, this tranquility is marred by tension within the herd. Bayu, the king of the elephants, is drinking at the watering hole, and the herd is waiting in perfect order. Suddenly, an angry roar breaks the silence. Latif, a young male elephant, rushes up to Bayu, his eyes burning with challenge. Bayu. Lottie looked at him angrily. Today, I will challenge you for the throne. The herd was in an uproar, the females shielding their young and the males watching in anticipation of the battle that would decide the future of the herd. Bayu slowly raised his head, his gaze calm and determined. He knew that this moment would come sooner or later. Rithi, Bayu said in a low voice, are you sure you want to challenge me at this time? Yes, Rithi replied without hesitation. The herd needs a strong leader and you are too old to protect us. Bayu took a deep breath, a flicker of sadness in his eyes, but more determination. He turned to face the herd and announced in a loud voice, today we will have a fair duel here to decide the new Elephant King. The commotion in the herd subsided, knowing that this battle was not just for power, but for the future of the herd. Bayu and Rithi walked to the center of the clearing and faced each other as the surrounding elephants held their breath, waiting for the moment. The battle begins. Bayu is the first to attack, charging at Rithi with his huge body. Rithi dodged and dodged, then drove his tusks into Bayu's side. Bayu roared and lurched back, whipping Rithi with his proboscis. Roddy is hit, but he quickly regains his footing and attacks again. The two elephants grappled fiercely in the clearing, dust flying and tension in the air. The elephants watched with rapt attention, knowing that this battle would determine the future of the herd. Bayu. Rithi yelled, you are no longer young enough to protect the herd. Bayu gasped and replied firmly, Rithi, becoming an elephant king is not just about strength, it takes wisdom and experience. As the battle wore on, Bayu showed signs of fatigue, while Rithi became more and more courageous. In the end, Rithi struck with all his might and knocked Bayu to the ground. Bayu struggled to get up, but his strength was exhausted and he was no longer able to continue the fight. The herd fell silent, knowing that a new elephant king was about to be born. Roddy raised his trunk high and announced to the herd, from this day on, I, Roddy, will be your new elephant king. Sawadi, the female elephant, stepped forward and whispered to Bayu, King, you did your best. I hope Rithi can lead us to a brighter future. Bayu gave Sawadi a deep look and nodded, I hope so. He knew that his time was over and a new one was coming. Rithi walked up to Bayu and whispered, Bayu, thank you for all you have done for the elephant herd. I will continue to protect our herd. Bayu smiled slightly, Rithi, take good care of the elephant herd, they are our family. As the sun gradually rose, the elephant herd began to accept the new elephant king. Despite the reluctance in their hearts, there was more hope for the future. The herd of elephants resumed their new journey, led by Rithi, while Bayu silently stepped aside and watched them go. At this moment, every living being in the forest witnesses the change in the elephant herd. The struggle for power is over, but the story of the elephant herd continues and a new chapter is about to unfold. The night in the Thai forest is quiet and deep, with the bright moonlight casting dappled shadows over the treetops. The herd rests in the clearing, with the occasional calf walking gently in the shelter of its mother. Bayat lies under an ancient banyan tree, reminiscing about past glory and pain. Latif, the young king, is leading his herd on a tour of his territory, his eyes full of confidence and determination. Sawadi, a female elephant, quietly walks up to Bayu and whispers, King, are you all right? Bayu took a deep breath and replied with a smile, Sawadi, I am no longer the king of elephants, just call me Bayu. It is a great relief to see that the elephant herd is safe and sound under Rathi's leadership. Sawadi nodded, a hint of worry flashed in her eyes, but your relationship with Rathi? Bayu's gaze became deep. Sawadi, I used to think that blood ties would make Rathi respect me, even love me. But the power struggle has made us strangers to each other. Just then, Rathi approached with a couple of young male elephants. He saw Bayu and Sawadi and stopped, nodding slightly. Bayu, Sawadi. Bayu forced a smile. Rathi, did the rounds go well? Yes, Rathi replied, an imperceptible glint of indifference in his eyes. Everything is under control. Sensing the tension in the atmosphere, Sawadi tried to ease it. Rathi, Bayu used to teach you many things. Perhaps you can share some experience of territory management together. Rathi's gaze became sharp. Sawadi, I am the Elephant King now. I have my own ways. Bayu felt a tingle in his heart, but he did his best to remain calm. Rathi, as the Elephant King, your responsibility is to protect and lead the herd. I hope you understand that power is not everything. Family and blood are equally important. Rathi sneered, bloodlines? You think bloodline can keep the elephant herd safe? This forest is cruel. Without power, all is lost. Bayu was silent for a moment and said slowly, Rathi, power and strength are indeed important, but if you lose your love for your family and your herd, then you will become alone. Rathi's face turned grim. Bayu, you are just making excuses. Your time has passed. Now is my time. Just then, a baby elephant suddenly rushed over and bumped into Rathi's leg. Rathi looked down at the baby elephant. A trace of impatience flashed in his eyes, but he quickly collected his emotions and gently stroked the baby elephant with his trunk. Little one, don't run around. Bayu watched this scene and felt a trace of relief in his heart, but more than anything else, he was helpless. He knew that Rathi's heart had been eroded by power and desire. The night grew deeper and the herd of elephants gradually quieted down. Bayu looked at Rathi's back and prayed silently in his heart that he would truly understand his responsibilities as the Elephant King. Sarvati asked softly, Bayu, do you think Rathi will change? Bayu shook his head. I don't know, Sarvati. Power can make a person lost, but it can also make a person find his true self. I hope Rathi will find that love for the family in the aura of power. Sarvati nodded and snuggled up next to Bayu. No matter what, I will always support you. The night breeze blew gently, bringing with it a gust of insects deep in the forest. Bayu closed his eyes, feeling the tranquility of the moment, his heart still full of hope for the future. Blood and betrayal may become part of the history of the elephant herd, but love and responsibility will always be the most important force in this forest.